In the constant noise of the modern world, people are relentlessly searching for answers outside themselves. They look for validation in other people, for success in wealth, for happiness in achievements, and for peace in external circumstances. They chase goals thinking that when they finally acquire them, they will experience a profound sense of fulfillment. Yet often when they arrive, they find themselves feeling more hollow than before. The goals that once seemed to promise everything now feel empty, the recognition they craved now feels fleeting, and the peace they were chasing seems to have slipped further away. This happens because we are conditioned to look outward, to believe that the world holds the key to our contentment. But the truth is unsettling and powerful. Nothing out there can complete you. Nothing out there can make you whole. The real journey begins when you stop looking out there and start looking within. The most engaging and life-altering realization is this: the solution to your deepest problems is not in the external world, it is within yourself. It is not found in books, gurus, awards, or the opinions of others. The treasure you are seeking, the peace you are craving, the strength you are missing, it has always been inside you, but it has been covered, buried beneath layers of fear, distraction, ego, and noise. We spend so much time adjusting our environment, trying to control situations and other people, thinking that this will bring us peace. But even if the whole world was perfectly arranged to suit your desires, you would still suffer if your inner world remains in chaos. There is a profound story that captures this beautifully. Imagine someone standing in a dark room, searching frantically for their keys. Someone walks by and asks what's going on. "I lost my keys in the house." The person says, "But I'm looking out here because there's more light." It seems ridiculous, but this is exactly what most people are doing with their lives. They have lost their peace, their clarity, their purpose somewhere inside themselves. But they are looking out there because it feels easier, because the world's spotlight is brighter. The light outside is seductive, but the keys to your life are inside. When you begin to look inside, you face discomfort. You confront your doubts, your fears, your own insecurities. You start to observe your patterns, your habits, your reactions. And that is not easy, but this is the real work. This is the path to authentic freedom. Because when you truly know yourself, when you quiet the noise and confront what's within, you realize that nothing external can disturb your peace unless you give it permission. This speech is not about escaping the world. It's about conquering the inner world so that you can live in the outer one without being a slave to it. It is about building an unshakable core so that no matter what storms come, you remain rooted. The message is simple, but it will change your life. Look inside, not out there. People spend their lives chasing validation from the outside world. They chase status, approval, and applause because they believe that being seen, accepted, or praised will fill an internal void. But here's the brutal truth. External validation is a bottomless pit. No amount of praise will satisfy you if you don't already accept yourself. You can achieve the highest recognition, but if you still feel like you're not enough on the inside, you will never enjoy what you've built. You'll be trapped in a cycle of performing for others, not living for yourself. When you stop chasing validation from outside, you free yourself. You stop adjusting yourself to fit in. You stop bending to the opinions of the crowd, and you begin to live in alignment with who you truly are. That's where authentic confidence grows, not from applause, but from self-acceptance. The most powerful voice you will ever hear is your own. It is the quiet voice that narrates your life, that judges you, that questions you, that either uplifts or destroys you. Most people are not even aware of how brutal their inner dialogue is. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to a friend, and yet they expect to feel empowered, motivated, and happy. You cannot win the external battle if you are losing the war inside your own head. To look inside is to begin to pay attention to this voice, to challenge it, to reframe it, to speak to yourself with truth and compassion. When you master your inner dialogue, you build a fortress within. No insult, no failure, no setback can penetrate the walls of a mind that speaks to itself with strength and wisdom. Most people avoid looking inside because what they see scares them. They are afraid to sit in silence, because the noise within is deafening. They are afraid to confront their past, their fears, their guilt, their limitations. But this avoidance is exactly what keeps them trapped. Growth only happens when you willingly step into discomfort, when you sit with your thoughts, when you embrace your insecurities, when you ask yourself difficult questions, when you do the hard work of self-examination. That is where transformation begins. Looking inside is not always pleasant, but it is always worth it. When you face your discomfort, you find your true strength. You realize that the monsters you were running from are smaller than you imagined. And suddenly, you become free. The most profound journeys we can take are not across countries, through cities, or over oceans. They are the silent, inward journeys where we explore the landscapes of our own minds, the caverns of our hearts, and the depth of our spirits. Yet, very few people are willing to make this journey. They find it easier to keep moving outward, to keep searching for the next possession, the next title, the next person to complete them. They live their lives with their attention scattered across the world, never realizing that the fulfillment they seek cannot be found out there. When you truly understand this, it changes the way you live. You stop chasing and you start cultivating. You stop looking for someone to save you and you start saving yourself. You realize that real peace comes not from changing the world, but from changing how you relate to it. You cannot control the storms of life. You cannot prevent loss, pain, or hardship. But you can develop an inner world so steady, so strong, so peaceful, that no storm can destroy it. Looking inside is not about withdrawing from life, it's about building an unshakable core, so you can fully participate in life without being dominated by it. It's about stepping into the world with confidence, because your sense of worth no longer depends on how the world responds to you. Whether people praise you or criticize you, whether circumstances are favorable or challenging, you remain steady because you are anchored from within. This journey requires courage. It requires honesty. It requires the willingness to sit in silence and listen to the fears you've been running from, to the patterns you've been blind to the strength you've always had but never fully embraced. The answers you are looking for are not hidden in the next achievement, the next relationship, or the next opportunity. They are already inside you, waiting to be discovered, but they can only be found if you dare to look. Most people will never make this journey. They will keep living at the surface, endlessly adjusting the decorations of their lives while the foundation remains weak. But you, if you choose to look inside, you can build something unshakable. You can build peace that is not fragile. You can build confidence that is not temporary. You can build a life that is not dependent on the unpredictable waves of the outside world. So the challenge is this: stop chasing. Stop searching outside. Sit with yourself. Look within, because the greatest discoveries are not out there. They are inside you. The human experience is often shaped by the desire to be seen, to be accepted, and to be recognized. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to seek approval. As children, we strive to please our parents and teachers. As teenagers, we crave acceptance from our peers. As adults, we seek respect from society and affirmation from relationships, jobs, and social media. This external seeking becomes a deeply ingrained habit, a silent pursuit for validation that begins early and often never ends. But the question is, how long can we survive like this? How long can we build our identity on the fragile foundation of others' opinions? When you constantly look to the outside world for validation, you give away the power to define your worth. Your sense of value becomes dependent on unpredictable and fleeting sources. One compliment makes you feel on top of the world, and one insult crushes you. One like on social media boosts your mood, and the absence of attention sends you into doubt. It becomes an exhausting cycle of highs and lows, with no real center of gravity. You become a puppet, and the strings are held by everyone but yourself. What kind of life is that? This constant need for validation robs you of authenticity. You begin to change yourself, not because you want to, but because you believe others will like you more. You dress a certain way, speak a certain way, think a certain way, not because it's you, but because you hope it will be approved. Slowly, you stop living your own life and begin performing a version of yourself that isn't even real. And the more you live this way, the further you drift from who you truly are. You start feeling empty, disconnected, and confused, because your inner world and outer image no longer match. There's a hidden cost to external validation that few talk about. You lose trust in yourself. When you are constantly asking the world, am I enough? Do I matter? Is this okay? You're sending a message to your subconscious that your own judgment is not trustworthy. You undermine your intuition. You ignore your own voice. You become so addicted to feedback that you forget how to listen to your own soul. And when that happens, even when people praise you, you still doubt it. Because deep down, you know they're applauding the mask, not the real you. The most tragic thing is that you could spend your entire life impressing people who don't even know you. You could build an entire identity around what others want from you and still feel unfulfilled. Because the applause fades, the recognition fades, the novelty fades, and when it does, you're left with the same question, who am I, really? There's a powerful freedom that comes when you stop seeking validation outside. It doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop depending on them to define your worth. You begin to live for your own standards. You begin to make choices that reflect your values, not someone else's expectations. You wear what feels true to you. You speak your truth even when it's not popular. You pursue dreams that are aligned with your soul, even if the world doesn't understand them, and that kind of living brings peace. A quiet, solid, unshakable peace that doesn't rely on applause to survive. This isn't an easy shift. Letting go of external validation feels scary at first. Why? Because it means you have to face yourself. It means you have to be honest about the parts of you that are still insecure, still needing to be seen, still waiting to be told, you're enough. And that honesty can feel raw and uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because only when you face that need directly can you begin to heal it. The truth is, every time you look outside for approval, you abandon yourself. And every time you turn inward for self-recognition, you reclaim a piece of your soul. It's not arrogance, it's not indifference, it's alignment. You begin to live from a place of inner knowing. You understand that you are not what people think of you. You are not the praise, not the criticism, not the expectations, not the applause. You are who you are, and that is enough. When you stop seeking validation outside, your relationships also transform. You no longer need people to constantly affirm you, which makes space for deeper, more authentic connections. You're not interacting with others from a place of neediness, but from a place of wholeness, and people feel that. You become more grounded, more real, more magnetic, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're fully alive in your own truth. You also become more resilient. The world doesn't shake you the way it used to. Someone criticizes you. You listen, reflect if necessary, and move on. Someone praises you. You're grateful, but not dependent on it. Whether people love you or misunderstand you, you remain centered, because your foundation is internal, not external. That's power. That's freedom. Imagine how different life would be if you no longer needed to prove yourself. If you could walk into every room without wondering how you'll be perceived. If you could speak without constantly rehearsing and editing your words in your head. If you could love yourself so deeply that no rejection could diminish you. That life is possible, but only if you stop looking out there and begin to look within. The world will always have opinions, that's its nature, but your peace doesn't have to depend on those opinions. You are the only one who truly knows your journey, your struggle, your depth. Don't let someone else's shallow understanding define your path. Don't hand over your worth like it's something to be negotiated. You are not here to perform, you are here to live. Fully, freely, and truthfully, and that begins the moment you stop looking for mirrors and start becoming your own reflection. When you stop asking, do they see me, and start asking, do I see myself clearly? When you stop seeking validation and start standing in your own light. Because the truth is this, when you validate yourself, you become unstoppable. Your inner voice is the most powerful force shaping your life. Not your circumstances, not your environment, not even your relationships. It's the voice that speaks to you when no one else is around. It's the silent narrator that tells you who you are, what you're capable of, and what you deserve. Yet, most people walk through life completely unaware of the quality of that voice. They don't realize that their entire identity is being shaped not by truth, but by a repeated pattern of unconscious self-talk. That inner dialogue is either lifting you up or tearing you down, and more often than not, it's the latter. You could have every resource in the world, support, money, opportunities, but if your internal voice tells you that you're not good enough, you will sabotage it all. You will play small, you will hesitate, you will second-guess yourself, because what's happening on the outside can never override the loudest voice on the inside. That's why mastering your inner dialogue isn't just helpful, it's essential. It determines the ceiling of your potential, the depth of your peace, and the strength of your self-worth. Think about how you speak to yourself in moments of failure. Do you offer understanding and encouragement, or do you immediately go to blame and shame? Most people are brutal with themselves. They say things like, "You're so stupid, you'll never get this right, what's wrong with you?" and then wonder why they feel defeated and unmotivated. If you were to speak to a child that way, their spirit would wither. And yet, this is how people speak to themselves every day. The damage is invisible, but it's real. Every harsh word chips away at your confidence, your motivation, and your self-trust. The irony is that many people think being hard on themselves is a form of discipline or accountability. But there's a difference between accountability and inner violence. One comes from love and a desire to grow. The other comes from fear and self-rejection. Real growth happens when you create an inner environment that is safe, honest, and compassionate. Not when you beat yourself into submission. To master your inner dialogue, you first need to become aware of it. That means listening, really listening, to the words you silently say to yourself throughout the day. When you wake up late, when you forget something, when you look in the mirror, when you face a challenge, what's the tone of that voice? Is it patient or harsh, encouraging or critical? Does it speak with kindness or with judgment? Awareness is the first step, because you can't change what you don't notice. Once you become aware, the next step is to challenge it. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. Thoughts are not facts. Many of them are echoes of past conditioning, voices from parents, teachers, society. Maybe someone once told you that you weren't smart enough, and now that voice lives inside your head, pretending to be your own. But it's not you. You inherited that belief, and it's time to question it. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, it doesn't belong in your mind. Now comes the most powerful part, choosing a new narrative. This isn't about toxic positivity or lying to yourself. It's about choosing words that are grounded in truth and strength. Instead of saying, "I'm terrible at this," you say, "I'm learning, and every mistake is helping me grow." Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," you say, "I am enough, and I'm working on becoming even better." Instead of saying, "I always mess things up," you say, "I've made mistakes, but I have the power to choose differently." These shifts may seem small, but they are revolutionary. They change the emotional tone of your inner world. They turn your mind from a battlefield into a sanctuary. You don't have to wait for confidence to start speaking kindly to yourself. Kindness is not a reward for success. It is the soil in which success grows. When you treat yourself with respect, you build resilience. When you speak with belief, you take bolder action. When your mind becomes your ally, the world feels less threatening. Your internal state becomes a source of strength rather than a source of sabotage. And this isn't just about motivation. Your inner dialogue literally shapes your brain. Science shows that the thoughts you repeat create neural pathways. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, you wire that belief into your brain. But the opposite is also true. When you start speaking words of strength and clarity, you rewire your mind for confidence, peace, and purpose. Your biology responds to your beliefs. This is also where silence plays a critical role. In today's world, there's so much noise that people rarely sit in stillness, but silence is not empty, it's full of answers. When you sit with yourself in quiet, you can actually hear what's going on inside. You notice the automatic thoughts, you catch the emotional reactions, and in that space you can start to shift them. You can begin to insert a wiser voice, a voice that doesn't panic, doesn't judge, doesn't diminish. A voice that sees clearly and speaks truthfully. Mastering your inner dialogue also means learning how to speak to yourself in hard times. It's easy to be positive when things are going well. The real test is how you speak to yourself when life falls apart. Do you blame yourself, or do you comfort yourself? Do you spiral into fear, or do you remind yourself of your strength? The words you speak in those moments are the difference between falling apart and rising stronger. They are the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. And here's the truth, no one else can master this for you. People can support you, inspire you, even guide you, but the work of inner transformation is personal. It's you facing yourself. It's you choosing to speak with intention. It's you becoming your own coach instead of your own critic. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. Present enough to notice your thoughts, present enough to shift your words, and present enough to nurture a mental environment that brings out your highest self. When you master your inner dialogue, everything changes. You stop waiting for the world to approve of you. You stop fearing failure. You stop shrinking to fit in. You step into your life with a quiet power, a grounded confidence that comes not from ego but from self-awareness. You become your own source of strength, clarity, and encouragement, and in a world full of noise and doubt, that is the most radical thing you can do. Because the truth is, you are always talking to yourself. The question is, are you listening, and are you choosing to speak with love, truth, and strength? The answer to that will define your path, not just who you become, but how you experience life along the way. Human beings are wired to avoid discomfort. It's instinctive. From the moment we experience something unpleasant, whether physical pain, emotional distress, or uncertainty, we seek escape. We distract ourselves. We numb ourselves. We look for the nearest exit from discomfort and sprint toward it. But here lies the contradiction. Everything we desire, growth, transformation, healing, wisdom, exists on the other side of that discomfort. Avoiding it may give us temporary relief, but facing it gives us lasting strength. If you want to evolve, you must be willing to turn toward discomfort, not away from it. Discomfort is a signal, not a threat. It's a messenger that invites you to look deeper. When you feel anxious, insecure, or frustrated, it's easy to react automatically. Scroll through your phone, overeat, overwork, or blame someone else. But these reactions don't address the root. They simply silence the symptoms. The real growth begins when you stop running and ask, why am I feeling this? Discomfort points you to areas within yourself that are still unresolved, unhealed, or unexplored. It's not your enemy, it's your teacher. Think about every breakthrough you've ever had in your life. Chances are it came after a period of struggle. Growth is not born in comfort zones, it's born in tension. When you stretch yourself beyond what feels safe or easy, you begin to discover parts of yourself that you didn't know existed. You find resilience in adversity. You find courage in fear. You find clarity in confusion. But you can only access these gifts if you are willing to stay present with discomfort long enough to learn what it's teaching you. Avoidance creates a shallow life. It may feel easier, but it comes at the cost of depth. When you always choose what's comfortable, you limit yourself to familiar experiences. You stop taking risks. You stop being honest with yourself. You stay stuck in patterns that feel safe but stagnant. And deep down, a quiet frustration builds, because your soul knows you are capable of more. That frustration is not a punishment, it's a calling, a call to go inward, to face the discomfort you've been avoiding. Because buried beneath it is the next version of you, waiting to be born. Discomfort shows up in many forms. Sometimes it's emotional, like fear of rejection, guilt from past mistakes, or grief that hasn't been fully felt. Sometimes it's psychological, like limiting beliefs, self-doubt, or shame. and sometimes it's spiritual, like the unease of living out of alignment with your truth. Whatever form it takes, your task is not to eliminate it, but to meet it, to befriend it, to sit with it without flinching. That's where transformation begins. The mind will resist. It will try to convince you that discomfort means something is wrong, that you need to fix it, escape it, suppress it. But discomfort is not danger, it's data. It reveals your triggers, your attachments, your blind spots. It invites you to slow down and reflect. What am I clinging to? What story am I telling myself? What fear am I unwilling to feel? These questions, asked with sincerity, can open doors within you that have been closed for years. One of the most powerful things you can do is sit in silence with your discomfort. Not judge it, not label it. Just be with it. Observe the sensations in your body. Notice the thoughts in your mind. Allow the emotions to rise and fall without trying to change them. In that stillness, something shifts. You begin to realize that discomfort doesn't destroy you. It purifies you. It strips away the false layers, it humbles your ego, it awakens your intuition, it softens your heart. And from that softened place, you gain access to a deeper kind of strength. Not the loud, performative strength of the world, but the quiet, enduring strength of someone who has faced themselves and survived. There's a myth that growth is always exciting or glamorous, but real growth is often uncomfortable, messy, and slow. It happens in moments of doubt, failure, and vulnerability. It happens when you choose to show up anyway, when you choose to be honest instead of pretending, when you choose to feel instead of numb, when you choose to move forward even when it hurts. These moments don't look impressive from the outside, but they are sacred. They are where your character is built. They are where your soul expands. Many people wait for the right moment to start growing. They wait until it feels easier, clearer, safer. But that moment rarely comes. Growth begins the moment you stop waiting, the moment you stop needing to feel ready, the moment you decide to lean into the discomfort instead of backing away. Because the truth is, you can't selectively avoid discomfort. If you avoid the discomfort of discipline, you inherit the discomfort of regret. If you avoid the discomfort of healing, you carry the discomfort of pain. If you avoid the discomfort of change, you live with the discomfort of stagnation. One way or another, discomfort will be a part of your life. The question is, will it be the kind that weakens you or the kind that builds you? Every time you choose to face discomfort, you expand your capacity. You become more resilient, more self-aware, more compassionate. You begin to trust yourself on a deeper level because you know you can handle life, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. That self-trust becomes a quiet anchor in the storm. It's the kind of strength that can't be faked. It's forged in the fire of honest, uncomfortable self-examination. And here's the beauty of it. The more you face discomfort, the less power it has over you. It doesn't mean you stop feeling pain or fear. It means you stop being controlled by it. You learn to move with fear instead of freezing. You learn to cry and keep going. You learn to fail and try again. Discomfort stops being a barrier and becomes a bridge to a version of yourself that is wiser, freer, and more alive. You begin to see discomfort not as a threat to your peace, but as the pathway to it. Because real peace isn't found in avoiding life's challenges. It's found in learning how to navigate them with grace. And the only way to do that is by going through them, not around them, by looking inward, by being still in the fire, by saying yes to the hard parts of the journey. This is not an easy path. It requires courage. It requires patience. It requires a willingness to be uncomfortable, not just once, but over and over again. But each time you face that discomfort, you become more whole. Each time you sit with it instead of running, you reclaim a part of yourself, and eventually you look back and realize that the discomfort you once feared was the very thing that awakened your power. So, stop running, stop hiding, stop numbing, turn toward the discomfort, invite it in, listen to what it's trying to show you, because within it lies your deepest growth, your truest strength, and the version of yourself that is no longer afraid to be fully alive.